All right, folks. See? Told you. Take 2 to our start today on episode 6. We're calling it Symbolic Gestures.
All right.
We really muffed up the beginning on the last one, so you're welcome for that. Enjoy that in the bloopers.
Uh-oh.
And, yeah.
Here we are. I also noticed, too, like, to your point of, like, we start the podcast and the videos the same way. I always, like, have to... I'm like a hype man. Like, I'm like, yup, boom, here we go. Like, it's like these little, like, extra little things that don't
We got like a cheer squad that we didn't pay. We couldn't afford the cheer squad, so we just do it ourselves.
Yep.
Yeah, we were talking about how we start every episode with all right, and by we I mean me, just so we're clear. I know it's me. Also, generally KJ goes, oh, it's number 5, and I say cinco, and so you're welcome to all our Spanish speakers. I can count to at least 6. So we're getting there. We also have a plant today. We have a friend for our video guest.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah, I work in here now, so hashtag COVID for life.
Coronavirus?
Actually, not really. That's a terrible hashtag. Anyways, so I needed a plant. Anyways, today we are here to talk about symbolic gestures. This came about over the last month and a half, 2 months. Kind of the resurrection of the Black Lives Matters movement. A lot of more companies are getting involved and organizations trying to make some changes in kind of a symbolic way. I have a few of them I've kind of looked at and been like, does this actually matter? Is it important? Mm-hmm. And I don't know that they are.
Okay.
And so I kind of want to talk about them, be like, are they good enough? Should they do more? Is it a good first step? You know, should we have everybody reviewing everything? I don't know. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about.
Okay.
So the first one I think has had probably one of the most publicity in the last couple months, has been the Aunt Jemima change, the syrup bottles.
Oh.
So I don't know if you've seen much about this, but they're...
No, actually, I've been hearing about it, but I didn't really I didn't dive into it. So kind of give me a recap.
So this is my like 10,000, 30,000 foot view of what has happened. We have to go a little higher because I've kept up with it, but I'm by no means any expert, so I'm not going to like say names because I know I'll say them wrong, although I think her name was Nancy Green. Okay. Fact check me. Yeah. But so basically, years and years ago, there was a lady who was a slave, was part of the whole come free thing. She ended up working for the company who wanted this syrup spokesperson. Mm-hmm. So she became that person. She was the image of it and was the commercials, the artwork, and would, I think, go around and actually, like, actively sell it. She was this very homey, like, there was Aunt Jemima log cabin where so there was some quote I saw that was, like, her log cabin was more famous than Uncle Tom's, and like, there's this very homey, cute, beautiful cloud around who she was. Okay. Fact check it out a little bit. It wasn't all, rose-colored glasses here. There was, she probably didn't get paid fairly. She didn't get this publicity she was deserved for the growth that this syrup has. I mean, when you walk down the aisle, like, there's Aunt Jemima's everywhere.
Yeah, you know it.
I mean, that's what I buy, and not for no other reason than just it's what I grew up with. It was in my home. Mm-hmm. So I think Quaker Pepsi, there was some sales back then, so I should probably double check that. But I think Quaker owns them now. I think they're owned by Pepsi. Okay. But they've decided to remove Aunt Jemima and redo the syrups, come up with a new way to share her story, and kind of get rid of this, like I said, very beautiful, warm story that was behind her, and give some credit to where it's due, and kind of get rid of that, the story behind it. Okay.
So, and this, I apologize for my naivety to it, but this is a real person?
Her name was not Jemima. Okay. I do think it was Nancy Green. Okay. There's a really cool article actually just came out a couple days ago where it goes through like her entire past, like how she was freed to her death when she was like 89 years old, something crazy that. So lived a long, long time. So I'll share that as well. But yeah, a real person.
Okay.
And it was kind of like when I first saw it on the news, I was like, is that really what matters right now?
Mm-hmm.
Like this was like June 1st, like 10 days after stuff started happening.
The height of everything.
And it was just like, really, like, that's the change we're gonna start with this, like. So I'm just curious, like, from your perspective, like, is that a necessary first step? You know, I mean, I totally see respecting her past and her history, but like, it's kind of like it's been there, done that kind of thing.
Yeah, no, right. That's a really good point. I like I said, I haven't really dove really deep into like the things, but there was this video on Instagram that I saw, and this guy, he was really funny, but basically it was kind of like listing those things, where it's like, it was comparing, it's like, oh, we asked for like relief of systemic racism and equality in pay and da-da-da-da. We didn't ask for you to change this or you to change that. And I was like, it was serious, but it was like supposed to have some humor to it. Right. And I just kind of chuckled to myself because I'm like, yeah, like that was dead on. And I feel like we're kind of in that, what do they call it? Like the cancel culture right now?
Yeah.
Where it's like, if it doesn't seem like it fits, right, any version of equality, it's like, just get rid of it.
Right.
And it's like, well, we don't need to get rid of everything, nor are we actually solving anything. So, like, in this case, to speak to this exact thing, I think, this might come off a little harsh, I think that's dumb. Mm-hmm. And not like the act of it. I think that when you think about it in regards to everything that's going on, it is so small and it means almost nothing. Like you didn't change anything. Right? Like, okay, cool, Aunt Jemima, awesome. I'm glad you're getting her story out there. I'm glad you're kind of recognizing that these, but we don't even really, that could have been something that they did and you just noticed it.
Right.
Like I could have been walking in like Cub or something like that in the grocery store and be like, oh, it's not, okay. Right? And it would have been fine. Like it's not, there's nothing behind it that's so impactful that it's going to change and make the movie.
Well, that's where it starts to feel like a publicity stunt.
Yeah,
like, kinda. Okay, this is where, like, hey, we don't really have anything real to do, so we're just going to, like, do this. And that's when we talked about Juneteenth. That was something I asked you about the companies that were starting to implement. And I asked you, do you think that's a stunt? And you had said that you thought, for the most part, no. But this, I don't know. Do you feel different?
Yeah, well, I think it's the level of which substantial impact is like how I kind of determine if something's like a stunt or not. Like Nike, I don't think that is, right? Because they're trying to make an organizational change, right? Like they made that a recognized holiday. That's a paid time off. Like that's a day for, people of color, Black people to go celebrate, just like all the other random holidays that are out there. I mean, there's like Flag Day and like all these other things. So it's like recognizing that as a holiday, that seems like a legitimate thing to me because that actually impacts people's lives. Right? Having Aunt Jemima or not on a syrup bottle doesn't impact my life. Like,
I mean, it impacts like the few descendants and like, maybe, right? Like, I mean, it's definitely a story worth telling. I think.
Yeah, I think that's great.
It like took over the news.
It didn't
for a
need to.
Few days.
It didn't need to, and clearly it didn't do much for me. Because you had to tell me about it. Like, I had to be informed about it. And I just I remember just even in passing, I was like, oh. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't move me. And not that everything needs to be, like, this profound act. But again, like, it needs to have some sort of lasting impact. That story probably would have made more sense for me if it would have been like, hey, we changed the narrative, right, way back when of what actually happened. Here's what went down. Here's what we're going to do. And we're going to, back pay her family or her, right? Like,
right.
And then on top of that, like, changing the bottle should have been, like, the very last thing.
Right.
It should have been, like, the cherry that was on top. Like, that. It shouldn't have started with, oh, we're gonna... It's like, I don't care. Like,
well, I will give them some credit. They are doing some, like, donations and things in the Aunt Jemima brand. And then I think Pepsi is committing a large chunk of money to some bigger initiatives. But
well, good. But that didn't need 3 days on the news.
This was, like, a real big, like, flag raise. Like, hey, look what we're doing. And I thought it was kind of interesting to think about, like, in my life, trying to think about the impact I can make and the changes I can make. And it's... To contradict myself now, it's almost like those small symbolic things have to be like the first step I do take. You're not gonna like tell the news about it, and I'm not gonna be famous like these guys. But like I've caught myself after one of our last episodes, I was telling a story, and I literally like was gonna be like the Asian man, and I was just like, so the man, and it's one of those like, okay, it was so small, nobody notices because I didn't say it, and it's like. But that's kind of step one for me. So, okay, this like I said, to contradict myself now, you know,
No,
maybe this
but-
is kind of like that first conscious step that this company needs to make to do
Sure.
this.
I guess I didn't think about it that way, and like I look at companies versus people in the regard of like personal public responsibility. So like that step for you is a profound step for you because that's your public responsibility, right? That's not your you're not running a company, right? You don't have that presence. So like that to me isn't big enough for the foundation on which you're standing on, and the presence and the reach of people that you have. So it's like, right? So like for you to be like, wow, we had that conversation, I'm going to be conscious of that. That's your impact for your day, and that's a very profound thing for you. But for a $1 billion company that has their billboards everywhere and has been making money off of this woman for many and many and many years, changing a bottle is not profound. It's not enough. Like it's just you're going through the motions, in my opinion.
Right.
Because your impact to the public is much greater than yours or mine, right? Like, it's not like I walk outside and have 1 million people follow me with cameras, so like everything I do, right? It's no one cares what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis.
But you have clear glasses.
Yeah, I'm fancy. So
yeah, no, that's a really good point. You know, as far as what you have the opportunity, the social responsibility that companies have.
Yeah.
This is honestly not.
It's not grand. It's not. It's not bad, and I don't want to ever discredit to be my own devil's advocate. I don't want to ever discredit people's efforts.
Right.
But it feels a lot like I can't remember which episode it was that we talked about where it's like the white man's doing enough to kind of shut everybody up. It kind of has that vibe sometimes. Like some things that people do, it's like, well, we did that. We changed the bottle. It's like, so? I didn't ask you to change the bottle. Right? Like,
I'm still systematically living the life of
like
something.
I'm still lesser than. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but thanks.
Right.
And like, I don't even really use syrup that much. So it's like...
I actually hate the smell of syrup.
Oh,
the smell. So
I don't like the smell of ketchup, so I understand.
Ooh.
Or fresh cut grass, or gasoline. They're weird.
So today's rating facts about KJ.
Yeah, that's weird. I don't like them.
I can't do syrup, which is funny because my sister freaking loves that stuff. Yeah. So when it's like pancake time, whoo, that's everywhere.
Well, then that company, they're catering to her.
I guess.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you what, she doesn't care what the bottle is like.
She's like, nope. No,
okay.
That's interesting.
So Uncle Ben's is another one that they're talking about.
Oh, that's the rice one, right?
Yeah, that's the rice. Yeah. So, I mean, same concept,
thing. Yep.
But it was just kind of an interesting that it's being talked about in more ways than one. And, you know, we have black spokespeople or icons or whatever they are, and white ones, like, do we need to, like, go down the grocery aisle and, like, pick out every...
Right. Well, I think, too, like, I just thought of this, actually. It's almost bringing attention to the stuff that we don't want, right? Like, we're not asking you, that's creating another divide. Like, we're not asking you to go and, find, like, every massive, like, black, whatever face thing and be like, oh, we gotta change this, It's like, I don't care, Uncle Ben's rice, I don't even eat it. Like, again, you know what I mean? Just, like, it doesn't matter. It's like, pick things that you can be involved in. It doesn't even necessarily have to be your company, but, like, what can you do internally to better your company, right? How do we grow employees within? How do we increase the diversity? How do you make your culture inclusive inside of your company? I don't care about that package, right? And I'm sure the 80 white people that work for your company probably don't really care that much either. They just band together and we're like, oh man, we gotta save face, we gotta do something. What can we do? Oh, we'll change the bottle. We'll change the... It just doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And to me, again, it proves the point of... And I'm calling out white people, like, you gotta do more. You gotta do more research. You gotta talk to more people before you just start making decisions. Right. Especially on bigger scales like that, especially companies that are running, Fortune 500 business, whatever. I don't even care if it's a mom and pop shop down the road. You gotta talk to the people. Because I guarantee
does this matter?
Yes, and they'll tell you if it matters or not.
So conversely, like, if you never change it, people go back and look at the story, like, do you see, like, an uprising because Aunt Jemima's still in a bottle?
Absolutely not. No.
I just had to ask.
No, absolutely not. I love that you do that, because that's always my response. It's like, absolutely not. Like,
just had to make sure that was
no. And really, I think if you look at your story, if you go back and think about your story, people will appreciate you more for being involved with the community that's around you and the demographic that you're trying to cater to than making such a gut decision. It's like, well, we gotta do it. No, you don't have to do it. Right? And if they I actually would have respected that company or that subgroup of the whatever big company more if they would have been like, hey, we recognize the story, we recognize it wasn't painted right, we recognize this thing's like, hey, we're gonna put something out there, like, talk to us, give us feedback, what should our next step be, and then let the community decide what that looks like and what they're going to spend those dollars on, because you're going to spend a lot of money on something that literally doesn't matter to most people. Like, and thank you for donating, thank you for doing that stuff, but, like, get out there.
Right.
Like, you have Facebook, you have Instagram, you have a million ways that you want people to leave reviews. It's like, why don't you have a page where people can leave feedback and go, hey, thank you, because I probably would have typed something like that too, like, hey, that's really cool, thanks for putting that story out there, I didn't know, right? But let's do X, or let's do Y, not let's redo our entire marketing brand. It just feels like a way for you to try to make me buy something.
Right. Once I thought it was interesting, because I guess there was some song that went along with her, and I was reading, like, it was written by a black guy, and I was like, okay, there are some bad parts to the story, but I was like, honestly, it doesn't seem like a bad thing. Like,
no, it might not be.
You had some history, you had some support, some black, artists, and you're good.
Well, I mean, not every story is bad, right? Like, not every story is a story that we need to go like, oh, this is black versus white. Like, there was a lot of people that were involved in the making of a lot of things, whether it went ethically or not. Right? Like, so it's like, I think talking to the people around you and getting the people to understand the story, because I don't know it, right? And then that's another point to make too. Like, you spend so much time trying to like rebrand, and it's like you should have gone education first and then rebranded. Right. Because I don't know anything about it, and that's naively my fault because I'm not like. Yeah. But obviously, you didn't make enough of an impact on a black person for me to go. Right. Oh. Like, you know what I mean? For me to feel, like, the necessity to wake up and, like, Google it. Or, like, go find that article. Or, like, tell me the education behind it first. Hey, so this is what happened, right? This is how it really went down. This is this person, right? And then talk to the community. Okay, what can we do now? Yeah. And then we're thinking about rebranding. We're thinking about doing this. Like, what are your guys' thoughts on it? And I would have respected that more and probably would have been 10 times more engaged. Because I'd be like, oh, like, they're actually trying to inform us of, like, a decision that was made many, many years ago. Right. And they're trying to better themselves. Not, oh, snap, change the ball.
Well, the irony of it all is, like, I would go on a limb and say, to your point, like, most people wouldn't know this story, wouldn't know anything. So for, like, just to come on the news one day and be like, Aunt Jemima's changing the bottle, racist, whatever... You're like, oh shit, like, Quaker sucks. Like, honestly, I'm like, oh, I gotta stop buying it. Like, I don't know what happened, but we're done.
Yeah, cancel culture.
And then it's it's like, alright, you take a second, you're like, okay, there was some good, we've got some adjusting to do, like, it still might be a good icon and advertising thing, but we gotta make amends. Yeah. Like you said, that education first, like, right now it's just like, oh, no, we're done. Like, whatever the other ones are,
I'm doing
clearly, I know so many syrup brands.
I don't know any. I don't forget them.
I think I buy a Target brand.
Yeah. Market Pantry.
Yeah. We take sponsorships.
For sure.
So that was what I thought was, that one kind of took over the news. Around the same time, Hulu had pulled an episode of Golden Girls.
Oh, I heard about this.
Okay, so do you know much about the episode? Or
Wasn't it like they were doing like facials or something?
Yeah, so they were doing mud masks. So the episode is one of the ladies' daughter is gonna marry an older black lady. Okay. And the time that they meet her, they're doing mud masks and. Rose and her, Betty White and her, like, complete ignorance of life, which is just so beautiful. I'm so envious. She's like, oh, well, we're not black. And, like, that's the part. Okay. And so the inclination, or what I think people are picking up, is that it's a reference to blackface. Yep. And they didn't want any sort of ties to that. What I thought was interesting, one, is that I think only Hulu pulled that episode. So I don't think it came, although I don't know where you can stream Golden Girls beyond Hulu, but it was just kind of interesting because it was another one of those, like, it seemed like Hulu just wanted to jump in and be another, like, oh, we did something too. Because, frankly, I can't imagine how many people are watching Golden Girls.
I think there's a cult following again.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie, I love Golden Girls.
I think that there are. I'm not trying to. Tell me, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's coming back.
I'm just curious, how many people are watching it? How many are watching that episode?
That particular episode, yeah.
How many, on that moment, are like, oh, I'm canceling my Hulu subscription because they have... I tell you what, I think I could find a few other episodes and movies that should probably come down first.
Definitely. Or whole entire movies that should come down first.
So I just thought that one was kind of interesting because, one, I'm not sure I got the connection to blackface. That, there was no, reference other than they just looked black.
I feel like it might have been, some satire that it was, you kind of almost had... it was, the intellectual... comedy, the intellectual humor of we're not going to say it, but if you are educated enough at this particular time to understand the link, which it's come on, when was Golden Girls in its heyday? I don't even know.
I don't know. I think I've only been alive for reruns.
Dude, right? And Betty White is still Betty White, doing her big thing. I think she turned 90,000 years old this year or something. But that again, it's to the point of you're drawing attention to things that don't matter. Nobody asked you to pull an episode of Golden. No one cares. I'm sorry. I don't even watch Golden Girls. The most Golden Girls thing I've seen, the only reason I think it's making a comeback is because now they got those classy, savage, bougie, whatever t-shirts, and it's and I saw that and I was like, ha. But that's it. That's my only connection to Golden Girls. If that episode would have been running on the air and no one ever said anything in Hulu, I never and ever would have paid attention to it. But again, it's we take these little things and we blow them out of proportion, and what people don't realize is it's taking attention away from things that actually matter. We don't care.
So let's twist that though, because we've got politicians and things in the last year have been revealed they dressed up as blackface way back when. That becomes a huge issue all of a sudden, and we're asking for public apologies and resignations and things. So this feels like Hulu saying, "Oh, don't worry, we took care of our problems too." But you could see where somebody could make a connection to, oh no, if somebody makes a blackface connection, this is bad. Yeah. So, are we overreacting when we see politicians and somebody dressed up at the time? Or, I don't know.
I don't know. That's an interesting question. I don't know. It's hard to say because I don't ever want to, downplay someone's reaction to it. When I say nobody cares, I mean, in the regards of, things that actually matter in the world. I'm sure someone cares.
Right.
You know what I mean? But, when you look at, climate and, whatever. But that's an interesting question. I don't really necessarily know the answer to it. Reason being is, I actually listened to a podcast a couple days ago, and they were talking about kind of that thing in particular, cancel culture in general, and they were talking about it particularly in the CrossFit space. And there was a certain CrossFitter who made a comment and basically got canceled, right? No, I don't think they had to retire, but they lost a lot of their sponsorships and a lot of things like that. So kind of the same thing, right? Politicians, you find out something about them or they do something and it's they basically take all that stuff away from them. And this person made such a good point of we have to stop doing that because that person never learns anything.
Sure.
Right? That person never goes through the actual education process of figuring out was that a good thing to do? Was it not a good thing to do? What did I actually do wrong? And we just kind of basically condemn them and then they just go away and guess what? They never change.
No, they just get angry.
Yeah.
Probably more steadfast.
Yeah. And it's and that person never had to go through the process of reflecting and understanding why people were so upset about that. And I think that we need to be careful with us just demanding such aggressive change so fast. I think that we need to let people atone. We're not doing that right now. And we need to let people... Everybody makes mistakes, right? And we've all done things, and in most cases, they're not documented because the majority of us grew up in a time where, cell phones were up and coming, so there weren't...
Thank God.
You know what I mean? It wasn't in your face. People weren't always recording everything.
Right.
So we can't necessarily punish people for something that happened 15 years ago. We need to acknowledge it. We need to recognize it. And then what we need to do, instead of, blowing up and trying to get that person to quit or do whatever or de-sponsor, we need to look through their path as a human being and find correlations or trends. Are they still doing this behavior? Right? So let's help this person get better. Let's help this person grow. Let's not just, remove this person. Because you didn't change that person. All you did was just take them out of the public eye.
Yeah. That's like the point of going to jail, right? Like,
Yeah.
go, get better, come out, and you should be, like, better.
Reformed. Yeah. But, like, we don't allow that, right? Like, we basically go, like, oh, he dressed up as a Native American and she dressed up as a blah, 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 like, fire him. And it's like, what did that solve?
Right.
0 things. That picture's still floating around on the internet.
Right.
That person still did that.
Mm-hmm.
And now that person doesn't have a job. Okay, maybe that person made that decision, and maybe, like, in their 10 years in that position, they've only done, like, 1 or 2 things that are just like, oh, we probably shouldn't have done that.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe that was the only thing that person did. We don't ever really look into it.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like we should, as human beings, be given that compassion
Right.
to have an opportunity to change.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And if we don't change, right, if we're given that opportunity to reform ourselves, and we continue to do or be, you know, whatever it is that we are,
Mm-hmm.
then we need to take action.
Yeah.
You almost need to be on, like, a probationary period of, like, hey.
You're probationary, you're racist.
Yeah, kind of. And I know that sounds silly, and, like, some people might be like, what are you talking about? But it's like, we've all done it. We've all said something or done something. I mean, shoot, I'm sure I have. I probably did it yesterday. I didn't even know, right? Like, it's hard to know your impact on other people unless it's really blatant.
Mm-hmm.
And if you were raised a certain way, sometimes you don't realize that it is blatant until you get around people and they're like, don't do that.
Right.
Right? Like, people don't do that. You're like, oh, what? Like,
yeah, when you're in your safe space and your parents do the same thing,
Yeah.
you think it's not so bad.
no, and obviously the people that those people are around or came up underneath, I'm not saying all those people, but someone instilled that was okay in some regard,
Right.
or somebody backed it up in some regard for them to feel comfortable enough to make that decision.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now we have to look at it from the other side of, like, okay, well, now we have to be comfortable enough to let that person recognize that wasn't necessarily a good decision.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So, I don't know. That's my thoughts on it, but it's an interesting one, though.
Okay, so the next one I wrote down was, I think this one's kind of funny because I don't get it. I shouldn't say that. I get it, but I don't.
Okay.
So the realtor groups, MLS group, decided that we should no longer call our master bedrooms, and instead should be called primary bedrooms because master points to the master-slave relationship.
Yeah.
What I have not done enough research on is to know, did we really not call it master bedroom until, like, master-slave and, like, in the South one, or, like, you know, in 1100, you know, whatever, AC, like, kings and queens and jokers, like, was it always called a master bedroom? Or, like, it was probably called your quarters or something
Your
at
quarters,
that point.
yeah.
But, like, I'm very curious your opinion on this one. Like, when you hear master bedroom, are you just, like, shook because it's making you feel like it's a master-slave thing? Like, honestly, never crossed my mind. But maybe that's just another white privilege thing, if it never...
No, it didn't cross my mind either. That was a part of that video. I'm going to find that video because I'm pretty sure I saved it, but literally he goes, yeah, again, nobody asked you to change master bedrooms to, like, whatever. Yeah, and I think there was a couple celebrities that kind of spoke out on that too, that were like, again, nobody cares. Like, yeah, I remember actually, when I watched that video, laughing at that one in particular, because I was just like, wait, what? Like, again, like, my point is we're taking attention away from things that matter. I don't care. I do not care. That is the master. Call it the whatever, right? Like, let's just not get, like, really egregious, right? Bring that word back. And call it, like, I don't know, the gas chamber or, like, right? Like, don't... But it's a master bedroom. There's a spare bedroom, there's a master bedroom. On the scale of things, it's this small.
If I'm going to call it the master bedroom, when I have munchkins, like, this is going to be like the slave quarters.
Yeah,
like.
Yeah, let's do that.
I'll get rid
Let's make that a thing.
Here's your chore chart, slaves.
Here you go. Like, what? Like, nobody thinks like that.
I thought that was a very peculiar need to change.
It's an unnecessary thing. It goes right back to what we were just talking about people feeling like they need to make these grand gestures to show, like, look at me. We're not racist. We're trying to be better. Thank you, I guess. Like, I don't know.
It's always bothered me at my core.
It rattled me. It shook me as a human being. Like, thanks. It's just, I wish, and I don't have the answer to it, but I wish we could just pull a list of things that, like, and we could put them in order from, like, important to least important, that is at the very bottom of the list.
Well, one thing that the MLS did, I don't remember the organization, it had something to do with MLS, they were talking about how it isn't necessarily to fix anything, but it's a sign of the times that we just don't need to call it that anymore, and we can just, kind of tick off those little things that shouldn't be there.
Okay.
So to that point, like, okay, I can see that, but it's another one of those, like, did it ever need to be announced? Because they're the way they're making the change is when you go to the MLS, supposedly it now says primary bedroom, second bedroom, third. And I just thought, if you made that change, first of all, people buy 1 to 4 houses in their life. So for any of us to notice that,
I wouldn't have.
Probably wouldn't.
Or if I did so, I'd be like, oh, this is primary bedroom. And then I would have, like,
I probably would have wondered if it was always like that and I just missed it.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, the acts, I appreciate the acts. I don't want anybody to listen to this and be like, okay, like, ooh, you're never satisfied. That's not the point. The point is I appreciate the gestures. I appreciate the little things. I appreciate someone being conscious of the, inequalities and the weird little, like, outdated things that we, the outdated things that we have. I appreciate that. However, I don't need you to make a big deal about it.
Right.
If it doesn't need my attention, my utmost attention, I don't need you to make a big deal about it. Because, again, it just feels like to me, you're just trying to be like, hey, look at me.
Right.
Look at me. I'm not racist. Right. It's like, you're not racist until proven otherwise. Like, and I feel like that's how people are, like, they're conditioned like that right now. Like, I don't want to speak for white people, but I feel like most of the white people I've been talking to, they just, like, feel racist until proven. I'm like, hey, I don't look at you instantly and think, like, here we go.
Right.
It's like, no, it's like, usually you do something to me, or you say something like, oh, okay, you're one of those, right? Like, so it's like, I feel like a lot of companies right now are like, they feel racist until proven otherwise. And it's like, you're not. No one's looking at you that way. And you actually almost have a negative effect, or I shouldn't say effect, you almost have a negative relationship with the group of people that you need to have the most positive relationship with. But again, it all kind of circles back to communication. Talk to people.
Right.
Talk to the community. Talk to the people inside of what you're doing. Let's talk about the fact of, like, let's pull up statistics on how many black realtors there are.
Well, that's so John Legend was one of the guys who, did have something to say about it. And one of the comments he made was about how, let's talk about how realtors aren't even showing black people all the properties that they qualify for because it's not in a neighborhood that would want it, or they think you'd want it to be or something. Yeah. So there are some real, when it comes to housing and real estate, like, there are some fundamental issues
talk about kicking down the door on some stuff.
Yeah, the master bedroom isn't probably going to be, like, the game changer.
No, but I love that, though, and, like, that's such a good point, right? Like, that's what I mean. Like, let's talk about the fact that we already are talking about systemic racism in the sense of, like, economics, right? And allowing people to live in certain neighborhoods. Like, there's a thing. That's a real thing. There's an invisible line drawn in the sand on a map where it's like, we don't really want that many different types of diversity. We like this to be an all-white community, or we want that to be more of an all-black community, or that is more of a Hispanic community. But there are people, like myself, I pretty much make enough money to live wherever I want. Right? I would be absolutely appalled and upset if I had somebody basically not show me all of the things, or I had to actively tell you, like, I want to look into this neighborhood. They would never do that with anybody else. Right? They would just show, like, here's where you want to live, take your pick. This is your price range, this is this and that. Show everything, right? That is the thing that I would rather have take out 4 days on the news.
Right.
Or be the spotlight when I go to your website and I'm looking at homes. Right? We're now doing a better job of being inclusive as far as neighborhood inequality and blah, blah, blah. When you have an application, we will now be very transparent with you with everywhere, right? Your income or your whatever qualifies for you to build a home or buy a home, and then you tell us where you want to live.
Right.
I would be like, oh, amen.
Right.
I'm down.
Right.
I'm in. Or, hey, we've recognized that we only have X amount of percentage of people of color working in this industry. We're going to, build a program or have some outreach or do some whatever to try to increase that number in the people coming up. Because I guarantee you there's probably some kids that would like to get into that business, but don't have the income to get the education, or maybe don't have the apprenticeship or whatever it requires to get into that.
Yeah.
Right? Or can't build a book of business because they live in a lower income community.
Yeah.
And they don't have someone that can take them on and be like, hey, let me show you how it's done. And then when I retire, you can have my business.
Right.
Let's have some programs like that. Let's do stuff like that. I don't give a rat's behind about a master bedroom.
I kind of forgot that's where this all started.
Seriously.
Like really getting into real estate. I mean, real estate is such a, I feel like as a realtor you have access to more real estate opportunities. You see a lot of them, investing in just all these other side opportunities, and that's where I just think that, there could be a lot of potential in the real estate industry to introduce more people of color into that world
and give them an opportunity, right? And that goes back to the conversations we had prior. Like, no one's asking, when we say equality, no one's asking you to hand us anything. Notice how the entire time I talked there, I did not say give more black people a job.
Right.
No. Give them more opportunity. Start them young. Get some, internships going. Have an office somewhere and say, hey, we'll do paid internships to however many students that want to come in and learn this side of the business, right? Where did that go? And the problem, there's another issue with internships too. Internships that are free, they already block out such a huge section of kids that can't do them. There's a lot of kids that can't afford to work for free. They just can't. They're paying for their education, or they come from, whatever. They're maybe the first kid to actually be getting an education in their entire family. They need that experience in order to get a job, and you basically just told them, like, oh, that's too bad. Like, oh, you can't afford to not make money for 3 months?
Right.
Like, sucks. Right? No normal kid, if they don't come from some sort of, like, affluent neighborhood or money or some help, can do that. So let's
even
pay
I don't know that they want to. Can we just do away with unpaid internships?
That doesn't even, yes, get rid of that. Shoot. Nobody wants to do an unpaid or internship where you make like basically $0, right? Because that's another problem too. Like internships, the business might be cool, but it's just not sustainable. I'm not telling you to pay exactly what everybody else is making, but it needs to be reasonable, especially with where people live and what they're trying to get into. Right. So not to again go down the rabbit hole, but these are the things when I emphasize over and over and over again, nobody cares about that stuff because they don't. So when someone tells you, oh, the bottle got changed or the package got changed or whatever, the master bedroom, I don't care. I'm going to tell you 10 times over, I don't care. And I'm going to say it that passionate over and over again because I can peel back that Band-Aid, right? And I can take a deep dive into that wound. And I can tell you how that wound got to be that way. And that Band-Aid ain't going to do nothing. We need stitches. Right. We need surgery. We need a lot of stuff. So take your master bedrooms, take your Aunt Jemima bottles, right? Be gone. Like, that's the last thing anybody wants.
No, these are all lipstick on a pig situations where it's just, if you went into these companies, what are they doing for the inside in their employees? What kind of hiring programs and anything to really make a difference? And
the answer is probably nothing. And like, I've seen personally companies that I have friends that I work for, and they're like, oh, we're doing these like these groups, like we're coming together, but the groups are like 99% white. Is it how are you gonna have a group about diversity and culture and all of you guys look the same? Like, you know what I mean? So it's like educate the people inside. Like, I was at my women's group earlier this week, and one of the women there were talking about how she's making a change in her workplace because there was a lot of Karens running around there, right? They were kind of running the show, and she put her foot down and was like, I don't want to work under these conditions. Like, I have every right to feel comfortable and safe in my work environment, and it's really cool. She said her COO and her CEO were they backed her. They're putting in company trainings, like, to get people to understand, like, what is good workplace etiquette, what you should and shouldn't talk about, how do you handle situations and confrontations that feel, right, racist or whatever. And I'm like, that's the stuff that they need to be doing.
Right.
That's the things that we care. I want it to top down and be like, yes, we see you. Like, let's do something about it.
Right.
Not somebody up there just writes a check for you to change all your branding on your packaging. Like, thank you.
Right.
They didn't do anything to me. Right. So it's interesting. But again, I think that and the whole cancel culture thing, and then I don't know, it's just all kind of connected. But it all just comes back to just, again, like, conversation. It just comes back to know your audience, or at least recognize the audience that you're trying to get, and open the door to them. Yeah. And they will tell you. I mean, it's just like all those surveys. Like, where did those used to go? I remember we used to take 1 million surveys. I feel like there was 1,000 surveys in the 90s. Like, Like, every place I went to was like, take this survey.
Now they just collect your data.
So they don't even need to service anymore. Right? But yeah, like, take a survey. Take a public poll. Hold, like, a community outreach, right? Like, sponsor that. Like, do, like, I don't know, something in the park. I know we got, like, Corona and everything going on, but maybe you can reserve, like, an intimate setting where it's like, you know, we'll take 50 people in a giant park and then, you know, we'll do that a couple times a week. We'll provide food and we'll sit and we'll actually have you talk to our leadership.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, let's hear what you have to say. Like, what is your perception of our brand? What is your perception of what we're doing or not doing? And bring us ideas. Tell us how we can change this culture. How do we change, especially with bigger companies, because those are the companies that continue to perpetuate the issues that we have, the inequalities that we have. So again, like, cool, I'm glad that you want to, you know, raise your hand and say, like, look what we're doing, but you're not doing the right stuff.
Right.
And nobody wants to look at you. You're just taking the attention away from people that we need to be looking at.
Right. Yeah. The last one I wrote down was Lady Antebellum.
Oh, dude. Oh, and Dixie Chicks, did you hear about that one too?
No.
I think they took the Dixie off their name.
So they're just the Chicks?
I think so. Somebody
Chicks?
told me that. I don't know the validity about
what
that.
What does Dixie have to do?
I didn't look into it, but it's like,
okay,
I don't even know. It's something about like a southern influence or a place or something. I'm not going to try to get...
Dixie cups are next to go.
They're gone. They're gone. No, I'm just kidding.
They're just cups. They're just cups.
No, but I don't know. Like I said, these little things. There's so many of these little things, and I'm like, I'm so like, that I've stopped even looking into them. But okay, talk to me about Lady Antebellum, because are they like Lady A?
So now they're They are Lady A, because Antebellum, it actually like has a greater definition, but in our recent history, we attribute it to the time, I think, before the Civil War.
Okay.
And so it's just like the time of, it has to do with the Civil War and just on slavery. Loosely.
That's what I mean. That's how I feel about it.
I just wrote this one down here, so I will not lie. It's been a few weeks since I looked at what that actually meant and what the problem was. But so Lady Antebellum, they did this huge public apology and how they're so sorry to have offended, and now they're Lady A. My initial thoughts were, one, I don't think their demographics are a lot of super stereotyping here, apologies. I don't think a lot of like black people are sitting there like really worked up about Lady Antebellum's country style name.
I know like 2 of their songs.
I probably know less. And 2, like Lady A from Lady Antebellum, like
it didn't do anything.
Still know what that stands for. Nothing changed.
And it almost like makes it worse, because if you go Lady A, you're like, what does A stand for? And then you'll Google
now
it.
You have to talk about it.
And then you'll Google it, and it'll be like, it used to be Antebellum. And you're like, what's Antebellum? And then you just,
exactly.
Yeah.
So I just thought, like, this is kind of one that, you know, in the long run, like, will be a very visible, and probably some people are, I'm sure there's some strong opinions on this change in general by their fans. And this is just kind of another one that I thought, like, okay, going back to our stereotype episode of, like, what type of music do black people listen to? That's why I say I'm stereotyping.
Sure.
I don't know that a lot of black people were offended by this.
I don't know any personal black people.
Do a lot of black people know what Antebellum means?
No, I don't even know what Antebellum means.
A lot of people.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. Like, let's take black off there. Do many people, because, like, I remember I heard that, and, like, a couple of friends were like, yeah, Lady Antebellum. And I was like, well, what happened to, like, Lady A now? And I'm like, what's Antebellum mean? Like, I didn't even know.
It sounds like a mushroom.
It kind of does. Like, or like a weird, like, dish.
Yeah,
I made Antebellum last night.
I did not have any, anyways.
Yeah. But, I mean, again, we go back to what is their personal impact to people, right? What is their persona? What do they need to do in order to have their profound moment in their space? And that is what they have to do, right? Because they're not a Fortune 500 company. They do have a demographic of people. We can joke about what that is, how black or diverse or whatever that is, right? They have it, but that's their contribution, right? Your contribution was being cognizant of the fact that you don't need to put the color of someone's skin as a descriptor for like whatever, but theirs is our name has a historically racist, meaning to it, whether they knew it, whether the world actually knows it or not, but that's their contribution to the cause. So I respect it in the sense of, like, I get it, I understand, because it's like, what else are you going to do? Like, they don't make racist music, so it's not like they can be like, well, we're going to retract our last album because it was bad. Like, It's
we
like,
hate
okay.
black people.
Yeah, they're the worst. And you're like, dang, this is a really messed up song, but it's like a top 100. Like, you know what I mean? It's not like that, but that's their portion. That's their contribution to the cause. So part of me is like, thanks. And all the I was like, okay. But I also get it. Like, I appreciate it, but I can also appreciate the fact that I can laugh at it too a little bit.
Right.
So
I think that one, like, it meant, and I think what you said is connects with how I thought about it. Like, when I look at some of these other companies, there's no face to the change. There's no, like, you don't look and see, like, okay, this company and this person is making this change in their life. Like, if you watch, like, the little video of the lady from Lady A, like, she's upset. Yeah. And you can see where, like, she had no concept that she might be offending people, that she might have been hurting anyone. And so for you to say, like, this is, like, kind of their step, what they can do, I took this one a little more, like, all right, like, I appreciate what you're doing here. It was one of the funnier ones. It is. It's kind of, what did I... Like, honestly, just go by, like, Lady. Like, at that point, like, just totally something. Yeah.
No, that's pretty funny. But, like, I can't remember what I was reading, but it was, like... It was something along the lines of, like, it's so... The topic is so serious that it's so funny. And, like, that's one of those. Where it's, like, this is so serious that, like, this is comical right now. Like, I'm like, I can't do anything else but laugh, because that's just, like... We're in such a crucial, critical moment. They're just like, really? 88? Okay.
That's gonna be the game changer.
Yeah, but hey, like you said, I appreciate it. But I think that people need to take the time to think about that, because what we do is I think it's just human nature. We compare everything to everything, and we can't do that. Like, we have to prioritize things in whatever the importance is of that situation, right? I mean, the same thing with, like, I don't know, hairstyles and fashion. We do it there. Like, all people don't look the same. All companies aren't the same. All influencers don't have the same impact to people.
Sure.
So you have to go with what you have, right? That's their impact to people. That's on their albums. That's on their thing, right? That's their identity. So for her to be that rattled about it makes sense, because, like, that was picking a name for a band is probably one of the most, like, critical things that most artists do. Right. So it's like, for her to know that the root of someone who's probably the furthest from racist picked a racist name, it probably did shake her and rattle her. Right. And so we have to look at that and be like, as silly as it might sound to the non-country person, it's like, okay, right? Or like how I'd kind of joke about the Dixie Chicks. I don't know enough about that to know if they actually changed the name. I'm like, oh, okay, but I get it. Like, that was your identity. That's like, that's your brand. You know, that's your career. You built that. So, like, that's kind of that's a big moment. But yeah, but, like, you know, big companies, like you said, there's no face. So it's like, you have to do more, because there's not a deep, immediate connection to them. Right? Like, I don't even know who's behind half these companies. Like, I don't even know who runs half these companies. So it's like, you can hide behind the presence of your brand, whereas, like,
I think Quaker's run by, like, that old white guy with the hat.
They all, which one? Like,
that's like their Quaker guy.
I don't know. Like, shoot, pick an old guy with a hat. Like, I don't freaking know.
Pick an old
I don't know.
Alright, we're gonna go look at my Quaker Oats thing downstairs.
We'll figure it out. Shoot.
No, it's okay, first of all, I have one very serious question. Do the Dixie Chicks still actually
make music?
Actively make music?
The answer before this year was no, but they did just make another album, and I believe they dropped it in 2019.
I did not know that.
Yeah, they just made another one.
Okay.
I like the Dixie Chicks.
Look at me. I probably know less songs than Lady A.
That's okay. I like the old Dixie Chicks though. I mean, which is a redundant thing to say because they just recently started making music. But I like the bangers, like Traveling Soldier and Not Ready to Make Nice. You've probably heard those songs.
Probably.
Yeah.
I trust you.
Yeah, you've heard them. But yeah, they are back. I don't know if they're permanently back, but they are back.
Okay.
To answer your semi-serious question.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that was like legit. I didn't know, but it's very not pertinent to this episode.
Sure. Well, I mean, to take it a little bit more of a serious way, Dixie Chicks are like actually historically known to be very vocal in like tough climates. Like they tend to really side with like the underdog. So they actually went away for a while because of that. They like got into some trouble for being vocal about a particular presidential person. I won't go too deep into it. You can look it up yourself. But yeah, they got us some beef. And then, the public, like, hated them for a while.
Interesting.
And then they came back, and then that's what Not Ready to Make Nice is about.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
So it's a good one.
Look at me learning things
Yeah.
today.
So it's interesting because, jokes aside, they actually are a group, three ladies, that are known to stand on the right side of history.
So if Gypsy is actually something that's an issue, they
would be the ones that are like, no, like,
right.
we cannot stand for that.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, that's all I wrote down. It was just they were all things that when I saw them, for the most part, I probably laughed out loud at some point, and it was just like, really, that's making the news.
Yeah.
And I get like, okay, we have to put some fluffers in there with the riots and the protests and anything else going on, but it just didn't feel that helpful.
Sure.
And
No, that makes a ton of sense. No, I'm happy to give it because I'm with you 100%, but I think if there's anything to take away from this conversation, look at the magnitude in which that company is like really impacting people, and then decide if it's worth it.
Right.
So.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thanks guys for listening. That was episode 6.
Yeah. We got a plugger. We got our website now, blackwhitethoughts.com. Go check it out. There you can listen to all of our podcasts. You can find the latest one. You can find some information about us on there. We've got merch. We've got all kinds of stuff. So check it out. That's kind of it. That's all I got.
Awesome. Thanks for listening.
Bye.